everyone. It's noon here in Connecticut. Welcome to International Coaching Week 2020 with ICF Connecticut. And we are here today for our last and final and biggest webinar. So as people are joining the room, please feel free to open the chat box. And when you open up that chat box, you'll see type all the panelists and attendees and tell us where you're from. Are you from Connecticut, some town in Connecticut, or all over? We had someone this morning who came in from Dubai and another person, I think, from London, and all over the country. So please type in where you're from. And Richard's still in Atlanta. I love you, Richard.
Hi, Richard. Ooh.
Everybody say hi. New York City, Brooklyn, London. Usha, you're back. Great. Watertown. Great to see everybody rolling in here. We have quite a lot of people registered for today, and we'll see how many are able to actually come. You will be getting a recording probably sometime later today or tomorrow with the recording of the day, but we've had quite a lot of people attending all week. We had over 520 registrations last time I checked for the whole week of 13 webinars. So it's really been quite amazing. East Lyme. Where else, Lori? Where do you see?
Why? I saw Harlem and London, I think you mentioned. So
Usha, it's a Friday night out, huh? That's funny. I love that. Yeah, so
Friday
it's
night out.
over there. Great. All right, we'll give it about 1 minute.
Windsor.
We're really happy to have everyone here. So Lori and I are both going to be monitoring the chat box and the Q&A, and so we'll be disappearing a little bit, and we'll be leaving it up to Judy and Isabella to present. And everyone is on mute, and we don't see any cameras, so you could be sitting in your jammies wherever you are, and we won't know it. Just sit back and relax and get out a piece of paper and pen. I'm sure you're going to be taking lots of notes. We'll go into the Zoom explanation and everything in just a second. Let's see, we've got 43 people here so far. That's great. That's great. Hi, Stephanie. All right. So I would love to welcome you to ICF Connecticut's International Coaching Week. I am Monica Leggett, the president of ICF Connecticut, and ICF stands for International Coaching Federation, if you weren't sure about that. So we here at the chapter are excited that today's terrific offering is part of and the last webinar of Raise the Bar webinar, 5 themes, 5 days of learning. It's been a series of free webinars that bring together individual and professional coaches representing a wide variety of coaching specializations as part of International Coaching Week. During this week, the whole International Coaching Federation membership worldwide has been celebrating the power of professional coaching to positively impact individuals, organizations, communities, and the world. So I would invite you to more ICW events, but this is the last one. But please feel free to go to our website anytime and register for some of the other events that we do. And on that, so our website is ICF-CT.org. A little bit about Zoom. If you haven't been zoomed out at this point and know everything about it, you're going to see 3 buttons. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see Q&A and raise your hand and chat. So for today, if there's any comment that Judy or Isabella asked for, put that in the chat box, and you can either put it to just the panelists or you can do the panelists and all the attendees. And a lot of people have been saying that they feel like they're in the room with everybody because they're seeing all the chat going on. So if you're not feeling sensitive, you can put it to everybody. And then use the Q&A for any specific questions. We'll be maybe answering a few as we go along, and then of course, questions in the end. What else? I think that's about it. So without further ado, let me introduce our speakers. Judy Garfinkel is the president-elect of ICF Connecticut. She'll be president as of July 1st. And Judy brings over 25 years of experience in professional development, teaching, and personal growth to assisting individuals through career transitions that move into change. A former professional ballet dancer, Judy never forgot the feeling of being adrift between dreams and the many other challenges that first and subsequent career transition presented to her. She devotes her coaching expertise to providing full cycle career transition services that move clients into the change that's right for them. Whether you're going back into the workforce after a hiatus or a furlough or a pandemic crisis, or maybe a new graduate or professional looking for new meaning and satisfaction in your work life, Judy guides you through discovering passions, identifying skills and strengths, assessing motivators, and the practicalities of the job search, like resume and interview preparation. Judy's the current president-elect. She's also an ACC, certified through ICF credentials. She's a BCC, board certified coach, and a certified focusing professional. She consults with REA Careers and ghostwrites executive resumes for an executive job search term. So welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Monica.
And let me introduce also Isabella Isola. Isabella came to our chapter via Rome. She lives in Rome, and she also spends a few months of the year in Wilton, Connecticut. So she's become a member of our chapter. I'm very happy to have her. Isabella develops talents through change processes to express their full potential and accomplish impactful goals by encouraging them to identify myriad creative and sustainable strategies to succeed in complex ecosystems, such as multinationals, European Union, and UN agencies. She earned a BA and an MBA from Columbia University. You lived in New York for what, 10 years, right?
20 years.
Wow. And she's a certified career counselor and management constellations coach, and an expert at assessing skills with many psychometric tools. Isabella has managerial experience in industries such as telecom, finance marketing, insurance, advertising, and professional acting. She has also translated a coach book called Manager, or I don't know what that says.
Managers are alone, yes.
Managers are alone, okay. I think
yes.
She is based in Rome, and she also has 3 passports and her bicycle ready to travel when things open up. So welcome, both of you. And I'm going to sort of disappear here, and you guys take it away.
Thank you very much, Monica. So we will be both presenting to you because we both agreed that this would be a great time, in particular, given all the changes that everybody's facing worldwide in this unprecedented period, to focus on strengths, to identify your superpowers, as we want to call them. And we won't be able, of course, to cover everything related to that, but we will give you a taste, and we will especially give you some tools and some ideas that you can even apply immediately. And so feel free to contact us at any time after the webinar, because we can provide you not only the slides, but additional information and answer any other questions you may have. So don't feel like you need to get everything right away right now. Judy, go ahead.
Yes, and so as career coaches, we're seeing our clients now, recognizing that this is a great opportunity to dig in to what's next for them and to reimagine or how to go about stepping into this next phase, whatever that may be for them or you. So today, we're going to explore the value of emphasizing strengths, as Isabella said, in that process, the superpowers. And we're going to offer some exercises to help you identify those superpowers and your accomplishments. And we'll offer you a way to approach your value statements so that people who need you can see you.
Absolutely. So we do live in a complex world, and a world with a lot of information. So to help each one of us and each of you stand out, we will look at how we could define strengths, how we can turn up the signal of those strengths.
Yes, so we would love for you right now to take a moment to think about how you think about strengths. What is it how would you define a strength? And put that in the chat box, please.
integrity. Yes, that can be a strength.
The overlap of interest and skills. Something you're good at.
A gift or talent, sure.
Something you're good at and feel good about. Oh, lots coming in. Lori, you may need your help here.
Lots of good answers.
A motivated
Resilient.
skill, I like that.
Yeah.
Something
Resilience.
that's unique.
Your gifts that you do well without even having to try.
Yeah, so some people are naming their strengths as well, like being able to connect people.
Where you derive your energy.
Oh, perfect. We like that. Yes.
Stay tuned. Your natural abilities and talents. Yes, a skill that works in sync with your values.
Mhm. Something that comes naturally, yes. Something else that people notice, of course, she's good at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Something that's easy for you and maybe hard for others. Anything we missed, Lori, that you can summarize for us?
I think these were great responses and a lot comments too with something that's in sync with your values, where you get your energy, a lot around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we want to offer you some words of wisdom from Marcus Buckingham. And for those of you who don't know Marcus Buckingham, he is a business and thought leader who has spent the last 20 years or so inspiring people to find their strengths and uniquenesses for greater success and satisfaction. So here's about 3 minutes of Marcus talking to us.
You're living in a noisy world, a world where well-intended people are pulling you this way and that with their demands and their benign but blind expectations of you. To make the best of yourself, and to do so in a way that lasts, you're going to have to quieten all that noise and then turn up the signal of your strengths. After studying lastingly successful people for many, many years, whether doctors or teachers, lawyers, salespeople, although if you line them up against the wall, you'd see just how very different they are. They do have one thing in common. They all focus on their strengths and manage around their weaknesses.
You know, when I think of strength, I think of energy. And I think of those talents and skills that energize me. That is strength.
If you're going to build on your strengths intelligently, you're going to have to claim them as your own. You're going to have to add your own detail, drawn from your own life. As you make your own strengths journey, there is one critical definition that you need to know. Your strengths are not what you're good at, and your weaknesses are not what you're bad at. No, a weakness is an activity that weakens you, even if you're good at it. A strength is an activity that strengthens you. What's important about defining a strength in this way is it means that you are by far the best judge of your own strengths and weaknesses. Your teachers, your managers, your parents, they're the best judge of your performance. But you're the best judge of your strengths. So if you want to make your greatest contribution, take responsibility for discovering and claiming your own strengths. Here are the 4 most obvious signs of a strength. In fact, you can use the acronym SIGN, SIGN, to remind you of them. The S stands for success. There are certain activities where while you're doing them, you feel effective, you feel in control. Psychologists call this self-efficacy. That's the first sign. The I stands for instincts, because there are certain activities where before you do them, you instinctively look forward to them. You positively anticipate them. Now, this doesn't apply to every activity. Obviously, there are some activities that you push off. You procrastinate. You want to hand them off to the new guy because it'll be developmental. The G refers to growth. There are some activities where while you're doing them, it's like your brain is growing. It's like the synapses are firing. It feels like time is speeding up, and what maybe felt like 5 minutes, you look up and a whole hour has gone by. You have rapid learning. The N refers to how you feel after you've done the activity, because there are some activities that fulfill a need of yours. After you're done with it, you may be tired. You may not be quite ready to saddle up and do it again, but you're not drained. In fact, you're fulfilled. So pay attention to those signs. They're a great clue to where your strengths lie.
Mm-hmm. And we'd like to specifically bring your attention to this concept of the acronym SIGN and to looking at the aspect of success, but also I want to add specifically that instinct is linked to intuition as well. Often we can make very good decisions by relying on our intuition. And this is something that is particularly important, I think, for women to think about, because very often in a very logical and very industrialized society where cognitive skills are given priority, intuition tends to be silenced, whereas it can be a great asset to bring out your superpowers and also to let you do what you're best at doing and to achieve the best results by applying those strengths and those superpowers. So what are the signs for you? What are the superpowers that fit this description for you? And feel free to put in some thoughts in the chat box.
And while you're doing that, Isabella, when he refers to the grow place, it is very much like the concept of flow. If other people may have heard of Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow, where the sense of time is gone and there's rapid learning going on. So that may be a clue for some people as well.
And you can feel free to put some thoughts in the chat box. Listening for you is a superpower. Great.
Presentations, building relationships that I know will have great impact for an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Curiosity.
Strategizing. Excellent. Mm-hmm. Training and coaching your passions. The ability to connect, making presentations, encouraging others.
Reading a room, creative, putting pieces together.
Helping, yes. Very nice. Mm-hmm. Connecting, making links.
Relationships, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of coaches and connectors in this group.
Awesome.
Yeah. And figuring out the ineffective stories people are telling themselves about a situation and inspiring them with new stories.
Interesting.
Empathy.
Collaboration.
I had a client recently who her sign was anytime she was helping something become more efficient.
Very good. I
So
love Strengths Finders. It's a great tool. Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. It can be used to build teams. Yes. So that you have complementary skills and strengths. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and speaking about building teams, here's a great quote from Peter Drucker, who says that the task of leadership is to create an alignment of strengths that makes our weaknesses irrelevant. So this is all about how someone might use that strengths thinking about strengths in their leadership and also in their buildings of teams. Weaknesses as irrelevant.
And we like this picture of the birth of the butterfly, the transformation, because often people ask, but what about my weaknesses? I have weaknesses. I should develop. I should work on my weaknesses. Well, for adults, it is much more effective to bring a strength to an excellent level. And that is much more likely to be something that one can accomplish rather than working on a weakness. But there is one difference. Where the weakness doesn't allow you to fly, doesn't allow the butterfly to fly. So it's a fatal issue that hinders you from actually applying and using your strengths. Then it's a weakness that is worth working on and that is worth developing in some way so that it cannot get in the way of your strengths.
Yes, and often when we were planning this, Isabella and I were talking about how often clients come to us wanting a weakness to be fixed. One that's not what would be a fatal one or in the way of growth, but one that we tend to focus on the negative. We were just talking this morning in Dina's presentation about how we're wired for, looking at what's wrong, and that has helped us survive. But that's a survival place, not a thriving place. And our thriving place comes from looking at how we can leverage and marshal our strengths rather than focusing on what's wrong, unless, of course, it's in our way.
Mm-hmm.
So taking a moment about thinking about that for you, what would you think of is something that you often think about is a weakness that really isn't so much of a weakness? You can write that down for yourself, or you can put it in the chat box. What are you focusing on that really may not need that much attention? Patience. Anyone else? Feel free, well, write it down for yourself. Sometimes it can feel a little vulnerable to put those things out there. So as long as you're keeping that in your mind for yourself, that's what's important. So, so we've heard people kind of notice that, you've probably noticed that strengths and skills are often used interchangeably, the way that people talk about them. And I like to define a skill as something that you know and you've practiced and can be anywhere from competent to masterful in it. But that is it. It doesn't necessarily have passion attached to it or anything else attached to it, although it could. We'll talk about that later. And some of you mentioned, I think it was Vinny who mentioned the character strengths and values in action, and VIA, which is values in action, is a wonderful way to look at strengths, character strengths that you take with you everywhere with you, that are natural to you and your character, and that can help you thrive in any situation. And you may notice that it carries through you all of your life. For example, mine is learning, and I can tell you story upon story about how that helped me in my weak places, as well as how it drove me in my life to where I am now. So a strength can also be seen as a skill as something that comes naturally at first, and that was practiced and honed because of interest or necessity. However, it may not be your passion area. And Isabel, did you want to say something about what's next?
Well, when we go to the next slide, we'll see another tool that will help along this way, because it is really not so easy to identify strengths and to identify what is something that we do well, as Marcus was saying, just because we are accustomed to doing it, we learned how to do it, we feel a duty to do it well, we have a responsibility, it's maybe part of our job or part of our life, but is not exactly our superpower. And it's not something that we like to do, it's something that we have to do, and we feel a responsibility. And maybe other people notice because they're very happy that we do it. Maybe they don't want to do it either.
We're very good at it.
Yeah, they take advantage of the fact that we are good at doing it. So here we have another tool for you about figuring out what is it that you know how to do. And you can create a circle for yourself. You can use a piece of paper, you can use a computer, whatever, and you can share an example in the chat if you would like, or again, just think about it for yourself, whatever you prefer, about something that you're good at doing. Now, it may or may not be a superpower. Let's see how we're going to reason about this. So if there's anything you want to share in the chat, and then we can see what the next component of this reasoning process is. And there are ways also that we can analyze this with some psychometric instruments, some questionnaires. So there are structured ways we can go about this as well. But the idea of already structuring your thoughts around a classification system, which is what this is very helpful. Making things happening, listening well, developing workflow processes, absolutely. Lead, facilitate learning experiences. Organizing dinners, oh yes.
Well, for Dina, for someone else, organizing dinners might be a way into discovering their superpower, which may be around event planning, right?
Mm-hmm.
For someone
simplifying complex concepts, absolutely, yes. And so here, the things you know how to do may be technical skills, or they may be behavioral skills again, but they both enable you to get certain things done.
Yes.
In this second circle, we're going to start looking at what you're passionate about. What is the purpose that you have? The purpose that you have for your life? What has meaning for you? What is something that energizes you, that you get lost in doing because you like doing it so well? And as you can see, we have placed these circles so they overlap, because there will be an overlap between what you're good at doing and what you're passionate about doing, what you like to do, and what is your purpose. Again, you can share some thoughts about this in the chat if you'd like. And you can also take notes on your own. Making order out of chaos, good.
You can see that these places overlap.
Learning. Uncovering hidden obstacles. Bridging cultures, wonderful.
So I want to take a moment while people are thinking and writing in the chat to address a question. I think it was Cindy's question a while back, to get clarity on the surviving versus the thriving place. That when we are in survival mode, we think very literally and very narrowly about what we need to do in order to get through this moment. And when we go into thriving, we are thinking much more largely, and we're incorporating these circles and using our deeper, broader thinking about what's possible for us. Did that answer your question, Cindy?
I think Cindy raised her hand.
Great. Great. So continuing with this model.
The third circle is what the market wants. What does the market need? Because, of course, if you're doing this exercise for a professional purpose, you need to find also what it is that the market wants. But having done this reasoning process about what you know how to do and what you're good at doing, you will start to be able to communicate to the market in a way that the market can understand. And this is particularly important in order to be able to communicate your value. And we'll talk about the value statement as we move along the webinar. So as you can see, we have noted also another very interesting work by Zenger-Folkman about the good to great process, which is another way, again, of looking at this concept of identifying your superpowers. And being in the zone is what Judy was referring to also before as the flow. It's when you are combining the three elements and you don't even notice the time goes by, and you're actually working but having fun, doing an activity that is rewarding for you at every level, in every way. And I think there are a couple more. Yes, making in equitable circumstances, helping people in job search. Good. There are a couple more comments. Great.
Great. And this is a great moment to stop for any questions that people might have so far. Just put that in the question and answer.
Nothing in the Q&A box yet.
Great.
You caught the one that was missing.
Give it a minute and see if anything comes up, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I just thought of a question. Can I ask it?
Of course.
Yes.
We often have this in mind only about our job skills, but although someone mentioned really good at organizing dinners, how important is it to really broaden your mind on when you're thinking about everything? So, I'm good at puzzles. I'm good at analyzing. So getting even more broad in order to really find the superpowers that might apply to a job search.
Yes, and so for these first two circles are often places where they talk about their hobbies or the things that they do to make themselves happy. And these are often fertile ground for looking at, is that something that the market can be shifted to a need in the market. That's often that's why we started with these two, because that's the first place for some people, right?
Exactly. And that's the reasoning process that enables us to help anyone identify their transferable skills. Because again, if you're very good at puzzles, that could be transferred to other kinds of activities, which may be just for fun or may be professional activities that you do for work. So this is the kind of process we go through as career coaches to help you identify those transferable skills that may come from something, you do solely for fun outside of work.
Yes, and what often goes into the conversation, like about puzzles, is, so what is it about the puzzles? What is it? What kind of thinking are you doing? What part of the puzzle process or the dinner making is it that you like? Because those are where the transferable skills are, and those are also where the looking for the market might also come to play.
And Judy, speaking of that, there was a question about the market. How do you know what the market is looking for?
Great question.
How can you actually know what the market really wants where you search?
Well, there are many things that we can do about that. And one is through networking, because networking can be like a research where you are gathering information about the market. So there are many ways that we can find that information. There's some information that we may have ourselves from our own experience. And also there are sources on internet and other sources that can be found to figure out, what is in the job description. So what are they looking for? What are the requirements? What language are they speaking? So many ways that we do that. And I see there's another question about whether we lead people through this process or we ask people to do it on their own. It's a combination of both, because we can't get into your brain, but we can help things come out of you. That's the idea. We support you. We're there along with you to work through this process.
Yes, absolutely. Asking questions that you may not be asking yourselves to help elicit the answers to these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a great strategy for identifying strengths is to tell a story about your accomplishments. And there's a structure, a very simple structure that I use with my clients, and Isabella uses with hers, that is CAR, simple acronym. What was the circumstance? What was an action you took? And what was the result? It's often a way to see a pattern of strengths in action in the workplace or in a volunteering situation or in a home or a hobby situation. It is also amazing, a method to use later when you're looking to talk to people about your accomplishments through an interview or on your resume or in a cover letter or anywhere where you would need to really give examples of your accomplishments. So it's sort of a two-pronged benefit there for this activity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as Judy's saying, this is particularly important for writing a resume because, of course, the resume can't be thousands of pages, even if your life has been thousands of pages. And I'm sure everybody's life is very rich of experiences and situations. But this helps to express those experiences and therefore the skills also that you have that you can bring to the new situation where you're going to be, to the new job, to the new market that you're targeting.
So you're very focused around how you describe yourself.
Mm-hmm. And this is another tool that can be used also to help you identify those situations that fit the CAR model and that express what you're good at doing. This also enables you to identify situations where you were particularly thriving and particularly energized. So what the context was, so that you can then find that context again in the new job that you're going to have. So it's a very simple graph on which you can plot specific instances, specific experiences that you've had throughout your life, approximately, I would say, from high school onwards, because there could be experiences of things that you did in high school that are also very relevant, even if they might be a long time ago, as they would be for me. So the ups and downs are where you were particularly rewarded, particularly satisfied, particularly happy, and so you got outstanding results, whether they were results for yourself or results that everybody else also noticed. And then times when you were not satisfied or when you were not able to bring the results that were expected or something happened that got in the way. So by plotting it on a graph, it helps you remember what the skills were that you used to accomplish those results and what were the circumstances, so the context you were in. And then you want to try and replicate the outstanding results. So we're not looking to eliminate what didn't work, but we're looking to replicate what worked.
So because you know who you are and you know through your strengths and through your superpowers, you have a deeper and stronger ability to convince your audience and to bring them to bear so that you can perform in the zone when you are in your new circumstances or when you are in an interview setting to get you into those circumstances. Taking ownership of this process, I see someone writing about that in the chat box, is the tools that we've offered here today are ways for clients to put some structure to the process that we're in. And sometimes a client doesn't need a handout like that or a process that looks that way. It can be a series of questions or both. But it is all about owning their responses and owning the digging deep into their experiences and looking for what the through line is. They make the connection between those things. We leave it to them to say, what patterns do you see here? What is it that you've discovered about yourself? So yes, Rutha, absolutely. So knowing your superpowers not only do these things for you, but they have a positive side effect. This whole process has this positive side effect, which is a firmer and stronger understanding of yourself, which brings confidence and contributes to resilience that we all need in life, but also as we are moving through a job change, transition, and search process.
Mm-hmm.
Oops. So what occurs to you now as this lands here? Where are you in your thinking? What maybe has occurred to you about your superpowers so far? Maybe put it in the chat.
Quick question, Judy. Well, two actually. One is just think about whether you guys want to share the PowerPoint, and we'll talk about that at the end. And then the second question is, how do you explore hidden strengths?
It's a great question. Hidden strengths often show up by accident. That this is often where a coach's listening ability really comes into play, because it's often an offhand remark that makes a hidden strength available. It'll be in the context of another conversation and someone will mention something, a client will mention something. I think I had this happen recently with a client who said something about, but you know, every job I ever had, everybody always came to me for proofreading. It was like an offhand remark in the middle of a other kind of conversation. And I heard that and I circled back to it, and right now she runs her own proofreading and line editing business. Because when I asked her questions about, tell me about that, she got all lit up and fired up and talked about how no matter where she did, no matter what she did, she was always so excited to help someone express themselves better. Like she was like a different human. And noticing that, for, you know, reflecting back to her sent her in a direction. So I'm sure you have stories like that too, Isabella, right?
Yes, I was just thinking, and it connects to the next slide about resources, that there are also some tools that can be used, and they can be questionnaires and psychometric instruments that can help uncover hidden strengths. This happened to me pretty early on in my career. So I had just, you know, a few years of experience out of college, and the psychometric instrument said that I was very good with plants, and you know, I could work as a gardener. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is meaningless. I'm not going to be, you know, plowing the earth somewhere. But then I realized, and I was helped to understand, that there was a metaphor there, and the plant could actually be a human being that I was helping to grow, that I was nurturing in some way and helping, you know, develop. And so that made sense to me. And that, in fact, has been the direction that my career has taken. So when we use these tools, just like Judy was saying, we have to interpret them well, and we have to look for that hidden meaning in there, which may come up just by chance, or maybe, again, hidden in the information that needs to be interpreted.
Yes, there's a couple of things in the chat. Dina mentions that this looks like Ikigai, and yes, it does look like Ikigai. And there are many methods for overlapping ways to use a structure to find an overlapping of skills and strengths and other parts of life. Laurette is saying that she's in an unexpected career transition. Yes, many are in that position, given the times that we're in. And so looking back at who you are again is frightening and yet exciting. Absolutely. Go, Laurette. Yes. Laurette, are you wanting us to say one or two sentences about each one of these resources? Is that, I'm assuming that's what you mean. Yes, we can do that. Isabella, do you want to do the first few?
Absolutely. The first one is a book, Please Understand Me, which is based on the Myers-Briggs instrument, which is a very famous instrument that has been used for about 50 years. So it is extremely reliable because it has been used on a very large population and therefore has statistical validity to identify character traits. So the personality of someone, because that personality can drive our choices and be at the basis of our values, and again, can be something that enables us to achieve outstanding results when we are in a context that allows that personality to thrive. So it's a strength for us in the sense of a superpower. What Color is My Parachute is a very famous book also that has been used for decades with lots of different exercises, so a person can use it on their own, independently, or again, together with a career coach, to, again, help identify the kinds of transferable skills and the kind of career where one could orient oneself. And the others, I think, are ones that you know better. Until Berkman, I guess I know, and then Judy, you can fill in the other ones. Berkman is a vocational tool. So as a vocational tool, it's a little bit more focused on actually providing suggestions for careers that people can follow. So they will give actually industry sectors based on the kinds of answers that you provide. And again, these need to be interpreted, and they need to be contextualized to everything else about that person in order to be valuable. So we wouldn't just say, you know, the one of these is the Holy Grail, but they're all very useful.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, and I would add that Get 5 is an exercise. It's Get 5 is you can go online and find them. They do the 7 stories exercise, which is very similar to the timeline, but it's more narrative, that you sit and you write stories, 7 stories of times when you felt really powerful and energized, and it could be in a work, volunteer, or personal situation, and then you look for the thread. Via character strengths, I think I mentioned already, is a great tool for looking at your character and the strengths that we sometimes call soft strengths. And DISC is a behavioral measurement. There's a lot about who are you in the workplace, how do you show up, what kinds of work environments, situations, not specific work environments, but situations are good for you. What ways do you learn? What kind of learning situations do you like best? How should people communicate with you better? It's really quite wonderful assessment if anyone is interested. Harrison Assessments is a full spectrum of tools around assessments, and there is one around career change. And Career One Stop is a government site, which I see that Heidi is here. Heidi turned me on to. And it is a huge and vast resource for information about careers, different kinds of careers, outlooks for market research about whether it is an upcoming, there's going to be a lot of hiring or not. You can look by state, you can look by the whole country, you can look at trends. You can also find out about specific jobs and where to get training for jobs, as well as some vocational matching tools as well on there. So that's those resources.
And looking at Heidi's comment, I just wanted to pipe in, Judy, that there are also 360-degree assessments, which can be very valuable in a context, especially of a company. So where you can ask your team, ask your supervisor, your clients, your suppliers, you know. So this is something that would be more likely to be done when the client is a corporation for us rather than a single individual. And those can be very valuable also to identify strengths and to determine what one wants to develop more. So again, there are many, many tools that can be used.
Can I just interrupt for a second? I'm noticing the time, and you guys have such a wealth of answers for us. I thought maybe you'd want to just go to that final statement slide, and then we can get back to, you know, some people have to leave by the hour. So we'll finish this up, and then you'll be able to reach out to Isabella and Judy with more questions later.
Yes, great. So once you know this about your superpowers, about yourself, and can fully embody them, your direction comes into focus, and more actions are generated out of that place in you. And I can tell my clients that from this place you can field an interview, you can field the networking questions from that strong and clear knowing who you are and what you value. So this is one way to think about it. What is it about you and what you can do? So it's who you are and what you can do that will make them better at what they do. So when you have come to the place where, like, I know this is the space I want to work into, What is it about me that can make this particular field better, or this particular company or this particular organization better at what they do? And from that, you create your value statement.
And yes, Christina, you can have a copy of this PowerPoint. Just reach out to us. Our contact information is here. Will show up on this last slide. And that way, we'll make sure to send it to you. And I just wanted to mention one thing that's very important about the value statement is that very often people start off by saying, well, this is what I want. This is what I like. So this is what I'm going to say as my job goal, as my professional goal. And that's perfectly fine as a starting point. But then it needs to be transformed into what can you do for your audience, for the market. Otherwise, they may not even understand what it is that you can contribute. So the idea here is absolutely start from yourself, as we have shown with all these tools and exercises, but then speak in their language. That's what the value statement is all about.
That's right. Absolutely. So questions before we get to our last slide, which is our contact information?
And you can feel free to write in the chat box or the Q&A.
Can we go back one slide? Yes. There you go. Yes.
Yes. And if you want to take a quick picture of that, we just want to make sure everybody knows how to reach out to Judy and Isabella.
So before we get to our last slide, I wanted to just say, in sort of a coaching way, right? A coach would be doing this at the end of the session. We've given you a taste of some powerful exercises to uncover your superpowers. But before we close, we want to challenge you to take an action, just as if we would if we were in a coaching session. So which one exercise or insight you gained today do you commit to putting into action right now, after this webinar, today or tomorrow? Write that for yourself or put it in the chat box. We'd love to cheer you on if you've got an idea in the chat box.
I see the question about whether there is an online resource for constructing a value statement. I don't know one. Do you know one, Judy?
No, I don't.
It's a concept that, you know, it's a very well-known concept for us career coaches. I mean, it's something that we always work on with our clients. But I don't know that there is a specific, structure for it.
And now you're going to get me go hunting. I'm going to go hunting. So Tasha says she's writing her value statement. Yes.
Good.
Lorette's going to chart her history. Yes, yes. Dina's going to use these ideas with clients to explore superpowers, to get them to own them for themselves.
Good. Thank you, Dina, for being here.
Really explore my next career pivot that plays from my strengths. Timeline idea to use with clients.
Next move.
Yes, and all of those are, career. The one that I mentioned before that I just careerinfo.net is related to those. You can get to all those other ones from there. Value statement, Naomi. Find my superpowers and my value. Write my value statement. Yes, Cindy. Yeah. Think about the language you'll be able to use when you talk about yourself in any situation, when you really can own your superpowers and how that can drive you. Lori's going to absolutely. Go for it. Take a picture of yourself and send it to us.
Yeah. Awesome. And you can feel free to take a screenshot of the slide to reach us if you want.
Absolutely.
You can also find them on our website, icf-ct.org. Look up Judy Garfinkel or Isabella Isola. Their contact information should be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of information in the chat box. Oh, we have one more question just came in. What is the first question you ask your clients when they are trying to identify their superpowers?
Well, I would say that depends on the client. And one of the things that Isabella mentioned before was intuition. Well, coaches use their intuition as well, and they are listening and and responding in the moment. And that question about superpowers would come from the moment that I'm in with that client.
Absolutely, I agree, Judy. I certainly do ask clients to tell me a little bit about what they would like to do tomorrow and what they have been doing so far, because by telling me their story, they are already sharing a lot of information, and there is a lot that I can hear in that story that they may not be paying attention to or maybe taking for granted, and may in fact be one of their superpowers or a transferable skills or a strength which they're good at but don't really get passionate about. So it's a bit of a process, and it's very customized.
Very
So
customized.
we do have tools, and we know that all these tools are effective, but they're not necessarily all equally effective for each client. So we pick and choose, and we customize to what the client needs at that particular point in time.
So an example I'll give you is I had a client recently who came in and was really kind of in a low confidence place and really was not really ready to do a lot of this yet. So I started very in a way that felt right to me in the moment, using a tool that's called Whom Do You Admire? And it actually has a twist in it, which most people think when I ask them that I'm going to ask them how they want to be like the person that they admire. But what I actually ask them is how that person is like them, which completely turns things around. And then they begin to see that they have something, and that begins the conversation. So that's an example of a moment where I chose a tool that I don't use with everybody, that would be customized to that person and where they're at in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had an experience recently with a person that is considering a career transition, but at the same time needs to do the best she possibly can at her current job. And so she had a lot of fears related to the interaction with the person at work. And so we worked through the imagination, through imagining what that fear was like and describing it, defining it, giving it a color, giving it a flavor, giving it, was it solid, was it liquid? And this created a whole new space for her to be able to shrink this. So the next session she said, oh, that big boulder of fear, that big boulder that was stopping me on my shoulders has become a little pebble in my shoe.
Oh, that's
the kind of transformation that we hope for, that we try to do. So again, it varies a lot. It depends on what the client needs at that time.
What a great story, Isabella. I'm also seeing that there's a lot of sharing in the chat box of tools and ideas. So I love seeing people offering things to help each other with things that they know about that really are great resources. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So.
Yes, value cards are also very good.
So for some reason, our last slide seems to be black. So Monica, do you want to
wrap it up? Well, I am just so thrilled that we really ended with a bang. We had over 55 attendees today. You've been wonderful. And Isn't it ironic that we set up International Coaching Week? Judy, you were the spearhead, you were the chairman of the International Coaching Week. We had no idea we'd be in the middle of a pandemic, and we had no idea we'd be in the middle of a mass loss of jobs. And so many topics were decided on back in December and January. And here, it was just, the timing was wonderful.
And we had no idea we chose webinars. Who knew?
Yeah, I know. So thank you all for attending. Thank you for joining us today. And thanks obviously to Judy and Isabella. We had so many people coming on. We had Lori and I were both here to kind of follow the chat box and the Q&A. So thanks for coming. And I hope that you'll take advantage of some other events that ICF Connecticut is offering. We have one May 29th. That's going to be about leveraging your sphere of influence through social media. So that's going to be a webinar as well. So we hope you'll come for that. We also have coach cafes, virtual coach cafes, where people can just get together as coaches. So if you are a coach, or if you're thinking about being a coach, or you're training to be a coach, think about joining us for those as well. So
and tomorrow there will be coming in your mailbox.
Yes, there will be a survey. So please respond to the survey. Let us know what you thought, if it was helpful. And you'll also, in the email, you'll have a link to the video. So if you take a look at that, don't let it sit in your inbox for too long, because we don't know how long it'll be on the site. So take a look at it and take your extra notes, and please reach out. We obviously have two very talented career transition coaches here, Judy and Isabella. So reach out to them if you need some help, and I'm sure they'd be happy to work with you. So any last comments you guys want to share?
Well, I want to say thank you to Isabella for being such a wonderful partner in this process, and to
Thank you, Judy.
And to Monica and Lori for your hosting extraordinaire, not just today, but throughout the week as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Monica and Lori.
You're
We
welcome.
couldn't have done it without you, and it's been great working with Judy. We agreed on just about everything. I mean, how much better can it get than that,
True, we're so aligned.
And I learned a lot. So that, so that's for me the biggest gift. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have to say, I have a bottle of Asti Spumante chilling. This has been an amazing week, and I wanted to celebrate. So thank you.
Awesome.
And thank you all for showing up today on a midday on a Friday. So thank you for that. And
people don't want to leave.
Well, we can stay. I'm happy to stay. But I want to say to those leaving, be safe and be well.
Absolutely. Especially at this time. Yes. But we are opening up a little bit in Italy. So we're hopefully starting to see the end of the tunnel, so let's be hopeful. It'll be a long recovery, I think, for the economy, unfortunately, but at least we are trying to stay positive.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot of cheers, Monica. We should be clinking glasses.
I know. I wish I'll cheers with my
So I'm a non-drinker, so I have to make popcorn or something.
Instead of Eeyore looking sad,
I got my water. Lori?
Here's my cheers to I can't get it right.
Yeah, I know, you got to get it in the middle of the camera there.
Go your own way.
Go your own way.
Yeah, follow your arrow.
Great. All right. Well, thank you all. I am going to end this now and watch for the survey and the video. And thanks for everyone for attending. We've made
Thank you.
partnerships this week. Take care.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.